Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Profitable Cleaner Podcast. I'm your host, James Harper. Today's episode is one that I want you to be able to listen to and actually walk away with actual action items that will move the needle for your janitorial business. It's no secret, guys, the sales game is everything when it comes to running a commercial cleaning company. It's why it's so critical. I often am asked what are the two most important things when it comes to running a cleaning company, and I truly do believe number one, it's sales. You have to have new cleaning contracts and revenue coming in. And number two, it's staffing. And today we are going to give you at least 50% of the solution. And that's the sales solution that will help your ability to sell more and ultimately do more when it comes to your commercial cleaning sales outreach. Guys, it's not any secret. I believe sales is really freaking tough. Now, with that being said, I also really love sales, which most cleaning owners find themselves in this like 50-50 balance of having to manage their sales plus their operations. And then some sales can slip through the cracks, and then operations can slip through the cracks, and it can kind of get really messy because the lines are blurred. Today, we are going to outline 5 behavioral activities that you can do that absolutely are critical and are needed that comes before sales success. And what I mean by that is there's this old psychology in sales that behavior comes before success, meaning you have to learn how to behave and create great habits before the actual success comes. Well, that's the exact same mentality that we are going to apply today, but we're going to break it down into our industry, the commercial cleaning industry. And we are going to outline and identify exactly what those 5 topics are, those 5 behavioral things you can be doing that will ultimately result in more sales. Let's dive into the first one. That's planning. Now, that might sound very simple and routine, but plans are often overlooked or they're often overcomplicated. And failing to plan is really just planning to fail, as they say, and having a good semblance of a written out plan that you can look back to day in and day out is so critical. Now, let's break this down back to a sales standpoint. You have to know a few key things right off the bat, guys. You have to know what type of revenue you're looking to achieve this year. You have to know the average deal size of those accounts that it's going to take to hit that revenue. And you have to know where your sweet spot is. Like, what type of accounts do you typically service that are awesome accounts that are profitable for you? And how many accounts of that nature will it take to help you hit your revenue goal? So I ask you a question. Have you actually written out your revenue goal and how you're going to get there for this year? If you haven't, I totally recommend that you do. Go back to our podcast episodes. We have a whole entire episode on what we call MTO planning, minimum target outrageous goal setting and planning. And just because I'm speaking out loud here, I'm actually going to link that in the show notes for you to reference back to in case you have not done that for your cleaning company. So, with that being said, let's assume that you do have a goal and you actually do have an idea of the type of sales you're looking to achieve this year. Now you have to map out exactly how you are going to get there. A lot of companies have annual plans, and that's great. The best companies tend to break down those annual plans into Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4 plans. So you're looking at them every 90 days or so. That's wonderful. But the first behavior that's actually going to get you to where you want to go in the sales game is daily planning. That's right, daily planning. Now, when you first hear that, you might be thinking, listen, I know that I have to go sign on 5 accounts this quarter. I know exactly what I need to do. I don't need to actually write something out every single day and think about that in an actual drawn out form. But here's what happens when we actually put pen to paper and we plan out our day accordingly. We take the time to be intentional, which is actually a behavior that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But it gives us the it gives us the ability to actually get clear on what we're trying to achieve and the next thing that we need to achieve. And the key word there is what's the next thing that we actually need to achieve. Very often we have an idea and that's where it stops. It's an idea of the overall plan, but we actually don't know what the next step is. And the next move is the most important move because it's what we should be doing right now or tomorrow, in this instance. Now, when you hear daily planning, you might get overwhelmed and say, listen, I don't have the time for that, et cetera, excuse. But the truth is, we do have time for it and we should make time for it, because it doesn't have to be intense. What a daily plan is and how I've broken it down to be is I like to do it the night before. I like to look at my calendar. I like to look at my day. I like to see where I have some open time. And I ask myself, how can I maximize that open time? Or if I don't have open time, how do I open up my calendar so I do have open time when it comes to sales? It's so critical that we actually map out our day, take 5 minutes, and list 1 to 3 things we can do, no more than 3, that we can absolutely focus on tomorrow. And if we get that done, it will move the needle for our business. We often overestimate what we can do in a day, and we often underestimate what we can do in a year. I really do love that quote. We overestimate what we can do in a day, and we underestimate what we can do in a year. So take 5 minutes at the end of every day and look forward to the day before and ask yourself, where's your focus time for sales, and what are the 1 to 3 things that you can do tomorrow to help move the needle forward to accomplishing the overall plan. So we just listed out 2 behaviors that you should be implementing within your sales process that's going to help move your cleaning company forward. Number 1, that's having a plan. And number 2, that's planning daily. Daily activity is what we call that. And they are essential for success, guys. I can promise you the best small businesses across the board, not just janitorial companies, they have systems in place that do this. And the top performing entrepreneurs, business owners, and sales personnel, this is what they do. They have an overall plan and then they plan daily on how to attack and to achieve that plan. Behavior number 3, be intentional with your sales. Now, this might sound kind of euphoric or woo woo, whatever you want to call it, but being intentional is really critical, especially with our behavior and knowing exactly who we are and how we work and what's the best way to engage with our prospects. Now, guys, I know that I'm a sprinter, not a marathon runner. What that means is I work really good in short sprints, that I am not one of those guys that's going to grind it out, pound the phones, and be selling for 10 hours straight in front of a computer every day, all day. That's not how I work. I have to be intentional and have to understand myself and who I am to get the best performance out of myself. And then I also have to be intentional with my energy, my effort, and my focus. So actually being intentional with the actions that we're doing is so key and critical. Again, a plan will help this, going back to the behaviors that we just spoke about. But all too often, we kind of go through our business, we go through our day, and we react. We're not being proactive with our intentionality, with our energy, and with our focus. When we're intentional with all of that, all of a sudden the impact is much greater. Really start mapping out your day, like we just talked about, and then asking yourselves, what do I need to be intentional with? What will truly help me achieve what I need to achieve this week to achieve the overall goal for my company this year? Now, number 4, this behavior, especially as a sales pro, especially in the janitorial game, needs to become automatic, and that's get really freaking great at follow up. Yes, I know a lot of people, especially if you're an owner operator, aren't great at the follow up. You want to automate everything. It takes a lot of time. It doesn't always pan out. I get it. But it's just proven across the board, not only in our industry, the commercial cleaning industry, but just sales in general, that follow up is what gets deals done. They say money's in the follow up, and I can promise you money is 100% in the follow up when it comes to the sales game here in the cleaning industry. So ask yourself, how many times are you actually putting in the work and putting in the time to follow up with prospects that have not yet signed on to become your client? Have you followed up once? Have you followed up twice? Maybe 3 times? Well, guess what? I got news for you. It's going to take 6 to 12 follow ups to actually engage a prospect and get a yes or a no out of them. That's right. It's going to take 6 conversations or touch points to even get a potential rejection from them. So you might be saying, is it worth it? 110% it's worth it, because there's a lot of I don't knows, maybe, and ghosted proposals in the cleaning world, and we're not going to be victim to that. So it's so critical that we actually follow up with our prospects. We get direction on next steps, on what they want to do, on what their expectation is, what their timeline's all about. And then that gives you clarity, and that gives you an answer. Because when we have an answer and when we have clarity, we can become more intentional with our time, our planning, and our calendar, which is the behaviors we just spoke about, which are absolutely crucial to sales success. So the money's in the follow up, guys. Do not go light on the follow up. Be human, be personal, but be persistent. And I promise you, if you are persistent with your follow up, it will lead to more profit. Just mark my words on that. And remember that you heard it here. And if you do that and you follow that routine, it will pay off for you. The last thing I have to ask you, are you asking tough questions, and are you playing the long game? And these are behaviors that we need to start really implementing right now. Are we getting honest with ourselves week in and week out with where we're at as a cleaning business? Guys, it's really easy to mistake movement for achievement, or activity and busyness for accomplishment. How far have we really came since we started implementing our plan? Are we asking the tough questions to ourselves, our business partner, and our team about where we're at and what's needed to get to where we want to go? Oftentimes when we ask these questions, it's very uncomfortable, can make you feel like shit. I know firsthand because I've been there. I've asked these questions about my company, about Dayporter, about this podcast. And I can promise you, they're not easy questions to answer. But when we get real with ourselves and we ask the tough questions, we're doing something that a lot of people don't do. We're becoming aware of where we're at, who we are, and where we want to go. And when we have that awareness and when we have that clarity, we are already outbeating half of our competition because they are afraid to ask those types of questions. And are we playing the long game, guys? We have another podcast that talks about thinking profit versus paycheck, long term versus short term. Are you playing the long game? When you're playing the long game with your commercial cleaning sales outreach, I can promise you a lot of work goes into it, but you're going to get a lot better contracts on the back end. When you're following up with that facility director 9, 10, 20, 30 times within a 12 to 15 month time frame, I promise you a better contracts at the other side of that. So, are you asking the tough questions for yourself right now about where you're at, what's needed to get to where you need to go or where you want to go? Asking those tough questions is a behavior of becoming self-aware. And when we're self-aware, we're more able to understand what needs to happen next. Guys, I'm James Harper. This is the Profitable Cleaner podcast. If you like what you hear, tell a cleaner to tell a cleaner. Like us, subscribe, follow us on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get this content from. But more importantly, join our community, the Profitable Cleaner Facebook group. I've linked it below. I look forward to seeing it in there. It's a community of sales cleaning sharks just like yourself that's trying to take their janitorial company to the next level. All right, guys, till next time, go out there, think profit first, go ahead and sign on a new commercial cleaning contract, and I can't wait to hear about your success.